The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Paranormal Report podcast. In tonight's episode, we're going to be talking with Jenny Wagner. Jenny, I just want to kick this off with saying thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. And if you want to do a short intro, just kind of introducing yourself, please go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm Jenny Wagner. I am from Serenity Forest, Elgin. And I am an animal communicator. I also do mediumship and a whole bunch of other things at Serenity Forest. And that's the main thing I like to do is help people.
Oh, that's amazing. Awesome. Okay, well, to kind of jump right in and just kind of kick things off, I'd like to start with hearing a little bit about your background before kind of getting into the paranormal community and kind of diving more deeper into your abilities.
Sure. Yeah, I think, I've always had these abilities. When I was young, I would just be so overwhelmed by them. I didn't know how to handle them and would, not sleep very much. I would sleep all around my house in different rooms. Hopefully spirits wouldn't find me that way. And just a lot of different things, not understanding what was happening. My parents were very religious, and anything I would go to them about, they were like, that's not true. That doesn't happen. Just go to bed. So I really did try to shove all of that down for a long time and ended up going into the field of mental health because I felt like my family didn't understand me. They made me feel very crazy. So I really wanted to help other kids who might be in that same position because I didn't think that I was crazy. And so I spent my college years and all of that doing a lot of paranormal investigation and going that route, but still closed off to my own abilities, not really understanding. Even when I was having things happen, like I was doing a lot of medical intuitive work without knowing it. And even in my therapy, I became a therapist and was working with families and kids and working in substance abuse for the last 25 years. And a lot of that too, now that I look in retrospect, was using those abilities to help people. I'd be in a session and someone would say like, how did you know that? Did I tell you that? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure you did. And not realizing that I was probably pulling that from somewhere unknowingly. And even in group therapy, I was able to feel when someone was going to get agitated or someone would be a little bit more sad and needed to be pulled out of their shell. So I would use energetics and work a lot with that. So I think I've always used it. I just didn't understand it until I was an adult and really started to work more at the Reiki and stone medicine and different levels throughout now.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's such an amazing story. So I wonder what was the deciding factor to you to really kind of dive in and just kind of, because I know, like you said, you were very conflicted throughout all those years. What really made you fully commit? Was there any one situation, or was it just kind of gradually over time?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was gradually over time. More and more things started happening to me. I started traveling more as an adult, and I would get like psychometry when I would touch a building. I would see its whole history, just things that, all these different things that were kind of culminating to, there's something to this and maybe I should pay attention. I felt like I kept getting like these flashing lights. And every time I would see a woman that I would see in Sedona for healing, because I also deal with chronic pain. So a lot of these like stone medicine and Reiki, I was looking at alternative medicines to help myself and others. I would constantly be told, you're very psychic. You need to go into this. You're a medium. You need to go into this. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. But I'm a therapist and I'm in the science world and that probably won't go well together. So I did, again, just kind of push it aside until my two cats that were really like my soul cats passed away in 2021. And I was in such bad grief and so devastated that I sought out animal communication. And that just opened back up like the door for everything. And that all came flooding back. So that's really where I decided, okay, I surrender. I'm gonna go down this path now.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, I can't even imagine how you kind of dealt with that and how that really affected your whole life. You know, like you said, I've been a part of the scientific community myself as well, and have investigated with other investigators who completely shut themselves off to that side of the field, and they focus only on the data and the science. And until things start kind of really happening to you, you don't start to open up in that way and even allow it in. It's almost like you're criticized in a way. I've talked to a few other people in the past that said that their colleagues even kind of made fun of them when they would talk about that kind of stuff in their scientific field. Did anything like that happen to you at all?
Yeah, actually, I was a supervisor at a mental health facility, an addiction treatment center, and I started going part-time because I was doing school for the animal communication and doing just a lot more psychic work and practicing with people like around the world where, you need to do Zoom calls at different times of the day. And I wanted to make that a priority. And they were really shocked at like, what do you mean you're going to go do animal communication? And what do you mean you're going to go talk to these people about mediumship and do these trips and learn more? Like, that just seems crazy. So I did get a lot of those comments, and even from people that I was close to for years. But they also had seen my abilities throughout my work. Like, there were so many instances where I'd send people to the hospital because I knew they were going to have a seizure or they were going to have an aneurysm. Even we had that situation too. Whereas, man, I sent him to the hospital. I'm like, you're having a stroke. And he was like, no. I'm like, you need to go. And sure enough, he had 2 aneurysms that had been bleeding. So he did have 2 strokes.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so if he wouldn't have gone, he would have died.
Yeah.
So people had saw that kind of stuff happen enough to be like, well, maybe she's not crazy, but I don't understand it, or it freaks me out. So they just were kind of like, eh.
So when you see that, is that like a picture that comes into your mind? Like, I mean, how do you visualize or see that when you, like with the aneurysm that you saw? Was it like a mental picture, or how did that come through?
Yeah, and it's so interesting to me because it's like not consistent all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and I have sometimes no control over that. But with this gentleman, he looked gray to me. He had like this gray pallor to him, and I was like, just had a knowing that this was happening, and then I could like focus in on his head, and I could see like the cells, and the more I concentrated on it, the more I was like, this is happening. And it was so intense that I was like, you have to go. You have to go. I didn't even care if I was wrong or sounded crazy. I was like, just go. Then he called me from the hospital. He was like, you'll never believe. I'm like, aren't you in the hospital? He's like, yeah, but he's like, I wanted to call you and thank you. So
that's awesome. And you had that intense feeling, like it just came overwhelming over you, wasn't it? Like that it just he had to get that done. I mean, you just felt that he had to go. I mean, was that intense? Was that like almost anxiety? Like, I mean, how did it feel to you?
Yeah. Usually I'll get when I feel like I'm being told to share something or give a message. Because mediumship was kind of the last thing I opened up because I had a lot of my own personal fears about that from my family and everything else. Until finally I'm just like, all right, I can help people in this way too. I'll try it, see what happens. But I always have parameters on it and controls on it because I always like to believe that I'm in control, which the universe constantly has a sense of humor and tells me that I'm not and reminds me that I'm not. But in this situation, I usually get told like at least 3 times in my, 3 times, like very intensely, like if I hear it 3 times, I know like I got to share it. It's important and that I need to just do it.
That's cool. That's awesome. No, I just think that's amazing that you're saving lives like that, and you're getting these feelings coming up from the universe and messages and stuff. I mean, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, any way that I can help people has always been important to me and part of my life. And I wish that could be a little bit more consistent, where I could help people, before it gets to that point, or like, see it more consistently. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I always feel like gifts change and morph and go in and out of different areas. For at least for
Yeah.
me, it's been that way the last 2 years, especially.
Mhm.
Where
I
who knows?
agree.
Well, Jenny, I feel like I have a thing to say to you, because you just said you wish you could help them at a different time or earlier or sooner or things like that, but you're not in control. The universe is, and it
Mhm.
happens exactly when it's meant to happen, for it to have the effect that it needs to have, not just for that person, but also for you.
Yes.
So
Yeah, you're right. You're
That's
totally right.
it.
it's not coming from me. It's other people telling me this. So
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think sometimes I do need that 2x4 to the head to to be like, you need to keep doing this. You need to keep going. You need
Yeah.
to keep this.
Mhm.
Doubt can creep in, and you can be like, "Am I crazy?" And then they'll have these moments with people that are just so beautiful that I'm like, "No, this is why I do this. This is why I want to do this."
Mhm.
Yeah,
It took me. Oh, my bad. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm ADHD. It'll come back in a second. So you're
No,
good.
it took me a while to. I mean, like, it took me a while to like learn to trust. You know what I. You know, if I want to tell somebody something, to trust it. To let it go. I had a friend of mine. She's a psychic medium, and she was doing a reading, and this person she was doing a reading on um, has a snake farm and stuff, and it's from Mississippi or something like that. But she thought, it came into her head like, oh, that can't be real. A snake farm? She thought it was like a worm farm. So she told the person it was a worm farm, but the person looked at her like, well, I do have a snake farm. And she knew it was a snake farm, but she didn't tell her the snake farm. And so she didn't trust her own, and she's a Reiki master. She didn't even trust her own thinking on that, because she thought that was kind of weird. But I guess they do have snake farms down south. I don't know nothing about them. But I have a trouble. I struggle. I struggle with trusting myself. To tell this person that if I see this, or if I think, not think but see, or giving a message about them and stuff and all that. How did you learn to trust yourself more? After you got into it. I mean, what did it take to just trust yourself with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's always kind of a back and forth, but I definitely have learned enough now to trust what I'm getting and to trust to say it. When I was first in school for some of the animal communication, because I took a class about that just to see if it was even real, I didn't have any expectations. And then I remember we did a group reading in front of everybody, like on Zoom, like this, and it was this woman's cats that we were supposed to read, and everybody was giving their answers and what they got. And I'm like, I cannot tell her what I got. I'm going to sound crazy. And I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to say it. So I did. And it was that this cat was talking to me with like a fake mustache, a monocle, and like an accent of old Hollywood, like just a crazy accent. And I'm like, this is what I'm hearing. This cat is talking like he's old Hollywood. He's da 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 da. And the woman started crying her eyes out. And she's like, oh my gosh, I give all of my cats personalities and accents. They all speak with that. He does have a little top hat, and he did have like a little thing. I'm like, wow, okay. And so it's been the
Cool.
craziest stuff that I've said that's been validated, where I'm like, all right. So now I've learned just to keep rolling with it, because
Yes.
I'm being told it for a reason. It's coming from somewhere, and I just trust that what I'm getting is meant to be shared.
Right. It's so cool.
Mind blown. That's insane.
That
Yeah.
was so funny to me. I was just like, so scared to say that out loud, and I was like, whatever, I'm doing it. And then to have her reaction like that, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
you get my cats a monocle and a top hat. My cats are slacking.
I couldn't get mine to wear a sweater, so I gave up on that long time
Mine won't
ago.
either. I tried to do just a collar, because my one keeps going outside and he won't even do that.
Cats or
Well,
something. They got
so
their own. Go ahead. My bad.
with that said, let's kind of dive into your ability to talk to animals a little bit, because that is something that I was very curious about, and kind of all that entails. And you did kind of, I was wondering, like, do animals have accents? Do they have different personalities? How does that
Good
appear to
question.
you? So, I mean, to start, when was the first time that you discovered this ability?
I think when I was little, honestly, I would spend a lot of time in nature. I really connected to elementals and nature and trees specifically, and animals as well. So I'd always be bringing home animals. I'd always be communicating with them. And even my cats, like I feel like we would share energy, the two that passed away that I had for 17 years. But to really have like a formal structure where I'm doing like readings and things like that, that just is a little bit different because it's almost like a therapy session. I have a space in my mind that I go to where I open the door like a therapy room and they walk in, and it's just really cool to have the animals tell me about their personality and how they interact with their owners, and if there's any issues that they have concerns about with their owners and vice versa. And it really is kind of almost like a therapy session in some ways, which is funny because, the animals will always tell me something that embarrasses their owners, like 99% of the time, where they're like, why are they telling you that? I'm like, it's not for me, it's for you. Like, I'm making sure you know that this is them, and I couldn't have guessed that.
I don't want you to be talking to my cat then. No. Hey, you hush.
But that's what's so funny too, is that I believe that animals are here to help us. They're really here to teach us soul lessons. They've mastered perfect love.
Yeah, I
They are
agree.
here to help bring that out in us and to help us just learn these different lessons, whether it's they sit on your feet and they want you to stop and be present in the moment, or they are, dying and we're helping them in that process and we get to be a part of that process with them. One of the main questions I always get asked by people is, does my animal know that I loved them? And like they absolutely always know. It's just no matter like how that end shook out, they always know. And that they always, the first thing is like, of course, they don't have the same kind of feelings like we do, like guilt or shame or regret. But they definitely help us still on the other side complete those lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally have a question. As far as like communicating with animals, do you only communicate with living animals, or do deceased animals also come to you?
Oh,
deceased animals also, yeah. I do animals in spirit and animals that are still here. So with ones that are in spirit, I do more of those sessions, I think, than animals that are still here, just because people have so many, maybe they went missing, or maybe they never saw them again or had to move away or whatever situation. And they have a lot of questions, concerns, things that they feel like they didn't get closure on. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And also people are so in grief typically when the animal passes away that they miss a lot of signs the animals are telling them. Like I often will tell a family member, if you hear the frame getting knocked over or a bell, or you hear them eating at their bowl and there's no one at the bowl, like that's your animal, like still here, still coming down, like knowing that you'll hear that or notice that. And the person's like, well, actually, now I'm going to have to listen. Like they've been too much in their head to like pay attention right away.
Right.
So how do you tune in to pick up a deceased animal? That's curious to me.
Yeah, it's just the same as when I connect in to do mediumship, except for I'm really setting the intention differently. I have the animal's name, what kind of animal it was, and if they're alive or in spirit. And then I connect in with them. I always just imagine like a little room in my mind, like a therapy room where I open the door and they just walk right in. And then I sit down and talk to them and play with them and just get information from them, and then relay that to the owner and make sure they understand it. Because of course, anytime you're getting information in mediumship or like with animals, I could be interpreting it totally wrong. And that sometimes happens where I'm like, yeah, they have a red ball and it could be a blue ball, but either way, it's like their favorite ball that they were trying to show me.
But are they colorblind?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too.
Because they only have certain ranges of colors, if it's a dog especially, that they see. So, it could have been a ball to the dog.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some of those things too where it's just sometimes it takes owners a minute or two to like recall things. And then they're like, oh yeah, that was their favorite toy that I always used to like, buy a new one of every couple months because they would rip apart. But I think a lot of people don't know what to expect with animal communication readings.
Right.
So I try to ask them up front, like I give them like notes on how to prepare, like asking some open-ended questions so they get more information. I usually give them a little bit about the personality of the animal, personality of the owner, allow them to ask questions. And then if there's a soul lesson involved, like if they want to know about that, some people, they're not ready to hear anything about a soul lesson and they don't want to know. That's fine. But other people are like, yeah, well, what are they working on with me? Are they still working on it with me, and how? And then we share that information too.
That's awesome.
For those out there that don't know what a soul lesson is, or maybe their first time hearing about something like that, could you explain what that is to the people and kind of what goes into that when you have done that for someone before?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a concept of soul contracts, so things that we might agree to for our own growth when we come to Earth. And animals are agreeing to help us achieve some of those things. So they can do that in a variety of ways. But let's say one of my lessons would be to work through grief and to work through loss. And so losing my animal that way and having it be such a traumatic thing, they're helping me by experiencing that moment and working through it and knowing that I'm okay and I'm able to move through it and not just sit in that grief forever. So there's could be a million different lessons, even just like being present. There's a lot of people who are very all over the place because that's just our life. And so you have animals sometimes that their goal is just to teach the family member, I will sit on your feet because I need you to stop moving and focus on me. And they'll do these things that might seem just like an animal, but they're intentional because they're helping you work on being in the moment, being present, being back into your own body, because a lot of people are out of their body from trauma or whatnot, and just being more connected and more present. So that's the belief, is that we're working on different lessons, whether we're aware of them or not, and they're helping with that.
So I have kind of I don't really know how to frame this question, but I have a personal experience of my own, and I wasn't able to really see it for what it was until many years later. One time my ex and I were picking out an animal, and I was absolutely not an animal person at that time. Now I love animals. I'm all about it. And I really love my friends' animals. But at the time I was like, no, I don't want a dog. I don't want a cat.
Yeah.
I don't want the responsibility.
Yeah,
I work
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
I work all the time. And then there's always the best intentions. People are like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'll feed it and I'll take care of it. And then I'm kind of more realistic about how people are with their habits and how quick they can change and, that kind of stuff. And quickly it ends up oh, you don't walk the dog ever. Oh, you don't take care of the animal that well and that kind of stuff. Right. And then we walked into a pet store. This was our fifth pet store. And I looked at this dog that was kind of like the runt of the litter, and he was being picked on. Right. And I picked him up. They got me to hold him, and I picked him up and I looked in his eyes and I was like, okay, this is the dog. If I'm going to get a dog, this is the dog. And this is the only dog I'll get. And I knew when I looked in his eyes, it's like you explained, it came to me in a wave. And I'm someone who, at that time, I was not a paranormal investigator, anything like that. The only thing I knew was Ghost Adventurers on the Sci-Fi Channel or whatever they were on.
Yeah.
And immediately I knew this dog was a good dog. And I felt something inside of myself open up. And this dog, he ended up just being the best dog. I mean, literally never did anything bad, never harmed anyone. He was always very well trained, had a very good temperament. He's just a good dog. And he ended up being the best family dog that we needed.
Wow.
Do you have, there's a question in there somewhere, but do you think that when people find their animals, even if they know it or not, Like when we go out to pick an animal, a dog or a cat, or we find them, is it like our purpose to take them or rehome them, or are they coming to us for more than just accident? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely think the universe has a lot to do with the animals that we get. Even when I went to go find the 2 newer cats that I have after my 2 passed away, I went to see entirely different cats that I came home with. And it was just very interesting how that works. And I really felt like my other cats that had passed on have been like putting this into motion for me to find the right animals. And I think that happens too when you start to connect with animals. Like, you know, there's all of these different dogs that you could have picked, but that one made a connection with you and probably connected with you on some hurts that you might have had from your childhood or whatnot that maybe help solidify and heal. So it's almost like, again, like energetically, the animals know how to help heal us too.
So now, Nico, you just broke my heart because Graham didn't want to go away this afternoon, and I gave Graham to his new owners today. And it's a cat from Edinburgh Manor that it was too cold for it to be outside, so we took it in. This cat has been loving and rubbing on my legs. I mean, I check people in, and this cat is like on me at the location. And so we took it home. It's been in a heated garage for 2 weeks, and he just got rehomed today. And I sat in the car waiting for the person to arrive to pick him up. And I just held him and I sat there crying for 20 minutes. It was the dumbest. It wasn't dumb, but it was like, and I'm like, he felt like he was supposed to be my cat. And I'm like, I can't have another cat. I already have 3 cats at my house. So I just broke my heart today. So thanks, Nico. Thanks.
Well, like, the reason I brought that up is because throughout my whole life and even after, right? So they have picked other pets, right? And I noticed that pattern in people's lives kind of from a distance of I picked the pet that was like perfect for me, even though I didn't want a pet. And then the person that I was with at the time, they've picked a few other animals, and those animals ended up being kind of exactly what they needed as well. You know? Oh,
yeah. That's cute.
Sorry, they do that. Yep, they like to join the conversation. I saw one jump up in the window outside.
I was watching those ones in your back window. For those that can't see, because we're obviously a audio recorded thing, she has her pets all joining her in the podcast. So they're all hanging out and joining in.
So funny.
I'll have to send you guys this picture. No, please go ahead.
Sasha's a Mancoon and likes to participate in Zoom calls and like run through and then sit next to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's cool.
No, not at all. We love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna say I'll send you guys this picture that she sent me like a half an hour before the podcast. It's just quite the little collection.
Oh, okay.
Gathering up on the back porch. It's such a great. There's like a raccoon, a couple cats. Like there's just a little bit of everything, and they're all just hanging out together. No problem.
No problem. Just eating and hanging out, huh? That is so cool. Golly, that's amazing. How did, you mentioned for me, I struggle with, because I don't believe the animals live long enough for me. I struggle with them dying. At certain animals with certain sizes, maybe some die younger, some die older and stuff. That's one of the things that, because I didn't really want any animals. Because, I had a cat previous, in my lab. Well, before I got divorced, I was, married. I had a cat for 17 years and it passed away. And I grieved for that cat for like a month or so. I just, because it was painful, because I loved that cat. I didn't think I would, but I loved that cat. And when that cat passed, I thought I would never get any animals again because, I don't like that pain of them leaving. They need to be like a turtle or, something that lived 90 to 100 years, something like that and stuff. And I admire people that do get animals after losing a family animal. I admire that. I'm not that strong in that, when it comes to, animal, because I love hard, darn it, excuse my language. But how did I mean when I guess what I'm asking is like, when you do your readings or when you're helping people that are probably grieving and all that. I mean, how can I put it? I mean, how did that work for them? I mean, like, you just give them messages and, it does it help them a lot when they lose a loved one like that or lose an animal like that? I mean, I'm trying to think of the right question. I'm getting there.
No, I think it makes sense. I can speak from my experience from losing my two that were 17. They were like my children. I didn't have children of my own. I had cats. So they were my everything. And I really was so heartbroken and so distraught and I struggle with depression anyways, just my whole life. So I was like, I'm never going to get cats again. That's it. I'm done. And a year later, I was still so depressed. I'm like, I better get a cat because I'm worried about me now.
Oh,
like it wasn't lifting. It wasn't going away. And I just decided, you know what? I need cats again. I just do.
Yeah.
But even helping people through that, I mean, like when you love something that gives you that unconditional love, truly like that, an animal, I mean, that is the worst pain. That is such a huge hole in our hearts, and that doesn't disappear. But I think that even just knowing that they're okay, knowing that they're still here, just like when you do mediumship with people, like just that sense that, we never really die. There's still energy on the other side and they're still doing things. I had a conversation with my cats that had passed over. I'm like, what are you guys doing up there? And they're like, oh, we're helping people. We're helping people when they cross over. I'm like, what? Like, oh, that's cool. It was just I just randomly asked it. And it was really cool to hear that they're still, living and doing things. And I think they brought these cats to me specifically because these cats have a lot of different skills too with connecting with people.
Right. That's
so
cool.
I do think it's of course a grieving process, but I think helping people with their grief and how to manage it, and just also how to know that like they're still connected to us, they're still here with us, and how to pay attention to some of those things so we can feel that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, like you said, very similar to mediumship. It's that kind of closure, knowing that it's not really over and they still understand. And like you also said, they were here for a purpose, and that has meaning, and that kind of helps us grow and change in the ways that we need to, and maybe in ways that we didn't really know that we needed. And so
Yeah.
also something that you mentioned, that you said that they were on the other side helping people pass over or helping in that way. So what I wonder is, like you said, they're still existing, and that must mean that they have some sort of memory, that it's an ever growing, like an evolution of knowledge. So have you ever ran into a situation where a certain animal has reincarnated in a way and returned to its owner, or any situation like that?
Yeah, I've heard about that from several families, and I definitely don't know it all, and I I would hope that would be the case. I don't know how often that happens, how far apart, how many opportunities there are, nothing like that. But I've had plenty of families that have told me like this is definitely our animal reincarnated, which I think is amazing. And I think there's definitely like, why couldn't it happen?
Yeah.
But
cool.
I definitely haven't had that happen personally. I just have had people tell me about that. So
That's cool.
Sasha, you're really wanting to join the podcast. Let go of my necklace.
Sasha wants a reading. Sasha wants a reading.
Yeah. Smell my tail.
Oh, it's funny. Gotta be involved.
So going forward, like you have going on now, is this like a class that you teach? Is this something that you just do for yourself, or is there? I didn't really know all of that when I first met you. I didn't realize how much you kind of had going on. So is that something that you help people unlock within themselves? Is it something that anyone can do, or how does that work?
Yeah, I believe that everybody is intuitive and can open up these gifts. And I just feel like they got to be willing to try and practice and then keep working at things. I feel like everybody has that capability. It's just that willingness to be open and try different things and play and see what happens. So I do a lot here. I really had a dream of building a retreat center, and I wanted to build a place. Growing up loving the X-Men, I had to build a place that I could allow people here, hopefully, to find safety and find a place to hang out and hopefully like teach each other things and learn from each other and grow. Because I always say, like, I'm a daily learner and I love to learn new things. And we found this place that was abandoned for a couple of years. It was on 5 acres with the forest. So I saw what it could be. And the land had a lot of energy here. So
Wow.
I've done a lot of work over the last couple of years, like building it and working on it. And I do workshops and retreats. I do classes from like crafting stuff all the way to like psychic development. So I've done a couple animal communication classes, and I do some stuff at the Paracons and stuff around here, whether it's readings or just a talk or whatever they want me to do. I'm game.
Yeah, that is so
That's
cool.
amazing.
It is.
That's amazing. See, and when I originally reached out to you, I was not aware of any of that at all. So it's actually quite amazing what you've built and what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I admire that greatly. That's amazing.
Thank
So
you.
cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's getting there. We actually have places now where people can sleep. We have a speakeasy with like a secret door. It's it's progressing. Yeah. If you ever get bored, check out the website.
I
But
will
feel
do
free, you
that.
guys are
Heck
welcome
yeah,
to
it totally will.
come out
Yeah.
and stay and investigate one day. That'd be fun.
Oh, girl, what you
That's
talking
awesome.
about? Oh, that's so cool. Child, please.
I'll bring my cat. No.
Yeah, there you go. That is so cool. Wow, that retreat thing. And so how often do you do you do classes? Like, do you do like twice a month or once a week, or how often do you do your classes?
So classes, I usually do something once a month, and I kind of rotate it to see what people might be interested in. So like 1 month, it might be like a crafty type class, like intention candles. The next one, it might be like an energetic class, like learning how to work with your energy and vibrational medicine. So then it might be, animal communication, the next one. And I do retreats more on the solstices. So
Oh, okay.
more
Wow.
intentional like that. There's been day retreats so far because we don't have all the sleeping for everybody. We've got probably for about 6, but I'd like to continue to add to that. So hopefully next year, that'll be our
So
next
cool.
expansion.
That is
Can only
so
handle
awesome.
so much construction at a time.
Right. That is
Right.
so awesome. That's so awesome, though. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Cool.
So that's something else that I was wondering as you talked about, paranormal investigating. I do know that you're also a paranormal investigator. Do you ever have that, your ability and the paranormal investigating intertwine? There are stories of animals at locations that create activity or are trying to communicate to people in some way. Are you able to pick up on that at paranormal locations at all?
Yeah, I have. I do a lot of, different paranormal investigating. And over the years, I've switched from like equipment to more automatic writing and just using myself as the tool.
Mhm.
And seeing then with people use their equipment and having that as the backup to like what I've written. And even on some of these trips I go on, I do a lot of that too, where I'll write it all down and then it'll be like confirmed afterwards, or the historian will say this and I'm like, holy cow, like this is what I got. So I feel like that's been interesting to see it work that way. But yeah, definitely I will see like residual energy of animals, or if there's an animal creating some issues. I've seen that before as well. Like sneaky kitties tend to, like, even when they're passed over, like knock stuff off walls, and people are like, it's a poltergeist. I'm like, might be actually a cat that's still around here.
So I have
That's so funny.
the location that I work at. We over the last 6 to 8 months have been having So it's actually been a little longer than that because it's been more than a year. Our first experience was on a day tour, and this guy was Mr. Skeptic. Nothing's real. I'm here. My girlfriend forced me to come. And in the first large room where I'm talking about, the children's room, and this is kind of what happens in here, this guy had something brush up against his lower leg. And it was funny because he freaked out, absolutely freaked out. I'm like, "Are you okay, sir?" He goes, something, something just caressed my leg. And you're like, caressed is an oddly romantic word. That was, he was mad. I embarrassed him a little bit. We had a group of 20, but I was like, that, I didn't know what else to say to kind of like brush it off. But we've had repeated instances where in certain spaces on the certain side of the building, something's coming up and brushing up against a leg. And several times people are like, it's kind of like when a cat comes and rubs on you because they want love. And I'm like, that's kind of funny because we've started having people get EVPs of meowing when there's no cats in the building, and we're getting meowing on first and second. And we do sometimes have stray cats outside on the property, but they aren't meowing loud enough to be on the second floor and caught on EVP when people didn't hear the cat. And so it's kind of weird. And then we're like, it's a facility that was a poor farm, or a home for the incurably insane is one of the names of the place. We had somebody capture a picture that looks like a person in a crouched down position, like an animal in a hallway, that legitimately looks like maybe a person is pretending to be an animal. And we haven't figured it out yet. So if we were to bring you into this location, just hypothetically, and you picked up on energies, what would a ghost cat energy come across? How do you visually or mentally associate that this is an animal?
Usually I'll either feel it, see it, it's like kind of all the things that come in. It just depends how the animal like presents really, or the spirit presents. Cause like I've had that happen with brushing against my leg. I've seen them like in my mind's eye, like run past. Okay. And then I also get that like even out loud, I'm hearing meowing and I'm like, where is that coming from? And it's not any of my cats. It's not any cat outside. It's like a phantom meowing that I hear sometimes, which is really strange. So it's interesting that you say that because that's not just me. Like it's that.
We've actually captured it. My people have captured it before. For me, in my state of intuitiveness, I rarely see it as I saw a cat go by. I see things in like an energy frequency, and which is really hard to explain. So like I may not see a form of Jenny standing in the doorway. I might see a form of your colors come across right now as very pink and yellow for me right now. So Jenny might be this vibration of yellow, pink energy that I'm just seeing this wavelength of energy over there, but not necessarily a human form or a person shape or anything. So for me, like sometimes I struggle with what is it for sure? I'm getting frequencies, colors, but not necessarily like most people are like, oh, well, I got a full visual of a man in a hat and he's got a beard and blue eyes. And I'm like, that's not how they come across to me most of the time. And I don't like, it's just weird.
Yeah, it depends because like sometimes I'll hear their voices in my mind, like in my mind's eye, I guess ear. I don't know, like internally.
your mind's ear.
I don't know.
I love it.
Somewhere in here, my internal dialogue, I'll hear like their voice and I'll hear them talking in a specific way, and usually I'll hear like it could be an accent but sometimes I won't at all. Sometimes I'll just have a knowing that this is a person. This is where they are. So it's kind of like, we'll see what happens. Like I can never.
I love meeting other claircognizants because it's the hardest one to actually justify to people because they're like, well, how did you know? It just is. It just is. It's just there. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't see a picture. It just is here. And I'm telling you because I'm supposed to tell you, take it or leave it. And they're like, how does that work? I don't know. So, it's awesome to run into other people that are very strongly claircognizant because it's just a really odd place in the intuitive world to exist.
Yeah, because it's never like straightforward. I'm always kind of like, oh, now I'm smelling this and now I'm like feeling this and okay, I'll go with it. And it's hard to, sometimes it's just that knowing and you just get all of it at once and you're like, okay, this is what this is, and trying to go with it. But not having a justification for it, just like, this is what I'm getting.
Yep.
It is It is cool though that you see it like that too. I find everybody else's gifts so fascinating too, just how everybody's so different and it's just amazing. I did get a picture too of my cat when I had my two cats, the newer ones. I took a picture of them, and in the middle is my old cat Tabby, who passed away. In the middle of those two, almost like refereeing, like this is how you gotta act. The most beautiful picture. It was such a cool picture that I got it like in photo format. So I do think they come back in photos too.
That's awesome.
That is so cool. Wow.
Well, see, I think that the reason why it's so unique in people's abilities, there has to be a reason for that. I mean, you know, as someone who didn't used to be open to these kinds of things, confirming that there is a continued existence that with knowledge, you know, with memory, that's a big deal in the scientific community. And so, you know, most people, of course, they doubt it or they lean into it hard because everybody wants to believe that something continues on when we pass away or these things mean something, you know. So I definitely feel that different people's abilities coming to them in certain ways, there's got to be a reason for that, you know.
Yeah. And I think just being open to having them shift too, even the mediumship, I was like, no way, I'm not doing that. And then I had an experience at Tinker Cottage where this other company took pictures of me there, and they're like, hey, we didn't want to show you this, but we'll show you this now. And it was like this guy's face over my face. It was so creepy. But when I had tuned into it, it was more like he was showing me like, you can do this too. You can absolutely do this. Like almost giving me like a pep talk on like, you don't need to go there to see someone else do mediumship. Like you're just as capable. I'm like, all right, fine. So then I started opening up a little bit more to that. And then using my therapeutic background and helping people with grief has been really like a great way to merge the two careers, really.
Wow.
Yeah, really. That is absolutely amazing.
Ooh, hey, I'm gonna have to.
So,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, do you have to go, buddy? Do you got to go to work?
Yeah, I gotta get. Yeah, they wanted me to come in tonight, so I'm gonna have to go get myself ready and stuff. And it's just I'm
All right,
going
buddy.
a little early. I mean, but I wanted to, just tell you I thank you so much for what you do. I think it's pretty cool and pretty awesome, and talking to the animals and everything, it'd be like Tarzan, I mean, but yeah, but he talked to the animals too, man. I mean, it's just in a different way. But no, it's just, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that those abilities are, happening and, helping everybody, helping people out. I think that's really cool.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's good to meet you all. I hate to leave. I gotta go though, because
all right, buddy.
Get myself freshened up.
And it's okay, buddy. We're almost reaching that time anyway, so you're all right, my friend.
Love you, Michael.
Cool. Okay, love you, guys.
Hey, buddy.
God bless y'all. Okay, bye. Oh, did I do this right? Oh shoot! Wait a minute.
This is the best part.
Yes, it's on audio. We've never had that actually in a podcast.
Wait until he clicks back in.
He struggles every single time to leave the call, and it's so cute. I'm like, I'm hanging out just to watch him. So I'm glad that was that.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, with that said, guys, it is about that time for us to kind of wrap things up. So, Kat, is there anything that you want to end with at all? Any questions that you want to ask?
I think we should set up a retreat, dude. I think we would have a blast. I have so many people that are in our group. I'm gonna tattle on Nico really quick because we're here. So Nico is our tech guy. He is our science man. He is our equipment builder. He is our everything is scientific, technical person until we ruined him or made him better. I'm not sure which. But now he feels things, and now he senses things, and now he's having these other experiences because he's allowed himself to be in a state where he feels safe and comfortable, and he can start allowing that to happen. And I love that that's happening for him. My team has a lot of people that are growing in their intuitive abilities, and I think that it would be really awesome to come and hang out at some point and do something fun. So
yeah, let's do it.
That would
Absolutely.
be amazing. I completely agree. Awesome. Okay. Well, Jenny, with that said, would you like to take a moment at the end of the podcast here and just kind of share your links, your website, and everything for the people, so they can find you?
Sure. Yeah. I'm Serenity Forest Elgin, and so that's ELGIN, the town, .com. So if you find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, I'm not great with social media, so Facebook's my only one that I'm pretty good at. The rest of them, hit or miss. But my website is good. So you can always find out information under the events tab there, or you can just reach out to me and give me a call or shoot me an email. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or talk to anybody, about something they might be interested in or creating something new or
Yeah.
I'm open. I'm pretty open to creating, playing, and helping people again in any way I can.
That's awesome.
Awesome. I love that so much. Okay, well, if you want to hang out for a minute, I'm going to do the outro and then we'll kind of end this episode if you want to talk for a little bit afterwards.
Sure, absolutely.
All righty. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in this far. If you did, again, if you want to reach out to us with a topic you want to talk about, or you want to be on the show, please reach out to us at paranormalreportpodcast@gmail.com. And as always, guys, we'll talk to you in the next one.